practical and sturdy enough not to fall apart if she had to go traipsing across the country. There, already her heart had stopped beating as if it would fly out of her chest. "Got any victuals in that basket of yourn?" the man across from her asked. Oh Lord, Colette! Who knew what they'd do to her kitten? Charlotte couldn't let them look in the basket. "No, I was going to fetch some things." He leaned back against the worn cushions again, and she resisted the urge to breathe a sigh of relief. Her abductors were dressed neatly, in a middling sort of way, even if they didn't speak like one would expect. They wore breeches instead of pantaloons, and belcher scarves rather than cravats. At least they didn't smell or appear overly dirty. That was helpful, as her stomach was still a mass of knots. It wouldn't take much to make her ill. If only she knew in what direction they were travelling, it might help her form a scheme to escape. A few minutes later, a large estate situated on a hill caught her attention. "What is the building over there?" The kidnapper across from her slammed the shade down. "None of your business is what it is. Shut your gob, Dan. We ain't supposed to talk to her." Next to her, the other scoundrel shoved his chin forward, as if daring Dan to defy him. "And what you think the mort's going to do? Jump out and run for help?" the man called Dan sneered. "She'd have to get away from both of us. I only closed it so no one could see inside." Charlotte's cheek felt as if it was burning, as if the blackguard next to her was staring at her face, but she did not dare return his gaze. "We got our orders," the man next to her said. "I don't need you to put us aground." Dan shrugged, and the burning feeling went away. She had no idea how long they had been travelling, but surely they would stop to change horses soon. Perhaps then she could find someone to help her. She wondered how her kitten was doing, but she didn't dare show any interest in the basket. The two villains would be bound to notice. Then they would find the pistol and her cat. The men had once more lapsed into silence. Dan's eyelids drifted shut, but she doubted the other man would be so lax. Not that she could have jumped out of the coach in any event. The traffic had finally lessened, and they were moving along at a faster, steadier pace. Some time later, Dan's foot pushed against her shoe. She moved her leg to give him more room, but the foot followed. Suddenly, he yelped, and when she sneaked a look, he was holding onto his knee. The other man must have kicked him. "What'd you do that for?" "Leave the mort alone," the blackguard next to her growled. "No talking, no touching." She should be relieved. Someone obviously wanted her unharmed. Yet that begged the question of who could have ordered her abduction. She was positive that she had not made any enemies. Matt kept such a careful eye on her. No fortune hunters had been allowed within several yards of her or Louisa. She gave an imperceptible shudder. Going down that line of thought would not help her escape. All it would do was distract her, and possibly frighten her even more than she already was. The coachman's horn sounded, and the carriage began to slow. They must be at a toll. But before she could think what to do, they sped up again. Well, drat! She'd have to be faster the next time. A short while later she noticed a pattern of speeding up, then slowing down, but not for the tolls. The driver must be sparing the horses so that they would not have to be changed. "I have to go to the bog house," Dan said in a sullen tone. "Surprised she ain't whined about wanting to go. Ye must have scared the piss out of her." He laughed at his own joke. The man next to her grunted. Well, if they were going to stop somewhere, perhaps she could relieve herself and find help. Thinking about it made the urge almost too strong to hold. I must use the necessary very soon. "But you can stop here. I'll watch them, Mort." Dan leered at her, turning Charlotte's stomach. "We're almost to the inn," Bert said. "If ye say a word, or try to get anyone to help ye, your ladyship, I'll bind and gag ye. Understand?" Charlotte nodded. The last thing she wanted was to be constrained in any manner. Several minutes later the coach came to a halt. "Say to the horses," Bert barked, and Dan jumped down quick as a rabbit. An ostler came around and let down